Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network. And back with me is our Locked On Astros buddy, the co-host over there, Brett Chancey, a.k.a. H-Town Wheelhouse on X. And it's good to see you and talk about the first place Houston Astros, the third best team in the American League. Does it feel like a first place team to you?
You know, right now, the way they've been playing, and when you look at, I just saw a stat that they have the fewest games with teams that are under 500. So that tells me they've been playing really good competition from the very beginning. You know, they played the Mets, they beat them. They played the Tigers, they beat them. They have played the Mariners, they beat them. So they've had some quality wins. And I know it's been kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where they win and they score, and then the next game it's like they're not even approaching the plate with a bat in their hand. But for me, in the AL West, as mediocre as it is, right now they do feel like a first place team. 3 weeks ago, I don't know that I would have been able to say that. But right now, it's not what you done for me then. It's what you're doing for me lately. And I think they passed the smell test right now.
And more Astros good news. They've only played 15 games so far against teams with below 500 records. Again, 15 games. That's it. Right. So the schedule's going forward is going to be very soft.
Yeah, that is the thing. You absolutely love to see that they are going to get an easier schedule. And the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Mets have all played the most games against teams above 500. You know, I'm sorry, under 500. So it's like their schedule is going to get more difficult. And you just wonder, like, are the Mariners playing over their skis? And I think they are at this point. And we've seen their history, how they start hot, they win the World Series in June, and then they suddenly fade into the sunset.
It feels like the injuries recently to DeCenzo and McCormick, kind of a blessing in disguise, because we get the chance to actually evaluate Jacob Melton on a regular basis. What's your impression of him after his first week in the big leagues?
Number one, he's very fast. He runs he runs just shy under a cheetah. The kid has got an innate ability to track down a ball, whether he's in right field or left field. And just the other day in Cleveland, when you think he doesn't have a chance, he sacrifices life and limb and almost goes headfirst into the foul wall on first base side and makes an amazing grab. And so Jacob Melton is figuring it out. He got his first couple RBIs, got an RBI double the other day. He looks like he's ready. And you wondered how he was going to perform because he did deal with an injury this year. He had only played like 17 games. And so was he ready? Well, he looks like he's ready right now. And it is great to see young talent contributing, because Cam Smith also has started to swing the bat a little bit better lately as well.
One thing that I really loved about the James Click era was his ability to find cheap bullpen talent. Dana Brown signed Caleb Ort and Bennett Souza off waivers and signed Steven Okert for $1.2 million in free agency. Last year, he signed Taylor Scott, who gave the Astros one fantastic year before falling down to earth, obviously, this year. And Brett, we're always talking about what the Astros do with reclamation projects on pitchers, but Dana Brown's ability to find these cheap bullpen gems is really how you compete for championships on a consistent basis. If you can do that, you can compete for championships.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually lead the league in pitching strikeouts. You can attribute a lot of that to the bullpen, because we've seen our starters, the young arms, go 4 1/3 inning. Then the bullpen comes in and racks up 5 to 8 strikeouts. And that is just something that you couldn't replicate in a lab if you tried. And it is great that Dana Brown's been able to do that, because his predecessors were able to do that. We have, especially when Brent Strom was here, we were able to take guys who weren't doing great, but they come here and they just kind of flourish. And so you love to see that. And it's really important, because that takes the stress off the pitching. With the injuries that have hit this pitching staff, the last thing you need is a bullpen that's faltering. To top that off, Josh Hader's been perfect this year in save opportunities. So Dana Brown He's got to get a lot of credit. He's been getting a lot of heat for whatever is out there. You can talk about roster construction, et cetera, and no one's going to be perfect in their decisions, right, Robert? But you're right. I mean, Okert, Ort, I mean, all these guys, Souza, it has been nice to see. And you saw that they were willing to let go of a guy, Taylor Scott, who they were real high on from 2024 and just was not getting it done. And so it looks like business as usual in Houston. If you're performing, you'll play. If you're not, see you later.
Yeah, you talked about this roster construction. If you go back to my Kenny Van Doren interview a couple of weeks ago, I sort of blew up that bad narrative, which I thought it was a bad narrative on the lefty situation, which is worth a mention. But speaking of the bullpen, Forrest Whitley, he gets DFA'd after a 12.27 ERA and 7 1/3 innings. Since you've seen the Whitley saga unfold, what did you see when he pitched this time around, and how do you feel about Whitley overall?
I know for a fact that he's surrounded by really, really good support. His wife and his dad have been there with him in all the ups and the downs. And I've actually talked to all three of them through the process. And there's nobody that wants to be out there on the field more than Forrest Whitley. And there's nobody that feels either more embarrassed or more upset that they haven't been able to contribute. I mean, because he carried the heavy weight of the crown of the number one overall pick, the kid out of high school. He was going to be the next, just fill in the blank, Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson. He had all the tools, and he's just been riddled with injuries and setbacks. And I really believe that even the Astros believed in him because they fought for that extra year. Because of injuries, they got him an extra year so that he could still be eligible to be on this roster. And unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, the Astros are in the business of winning. And if you're going out there and your ERA is what it is and the small sample size that you've given, you don't really have time to try to improve the guy, especially when you're in a tight division race and you're going to try to make yet another playoff push. So you hate to see it. Forrest Whitley, if he clears waivers, could easily be re-signed by the Astros. He could also turn it down, but he's too long in his career to just become an automatic free agent. He has to turn down the Astros offer. Hopefully someone gives him a chance if he doesn't end up back in the Astros system. And who knows, maybe he's got a year or two where he can go in there and actually fulfill his dream outside of a few games. But knowing how hard he's worked lately, it's tough to see. I know he gets a lot of crap. I know a lot of people throw a lot of stuff at him, but the guy is a human. And I can tell you, much like we heard with, Lance McCullers with all the death threats and stuff, I promise you the Whitleys have received their fair share of really awful criticism and sometimes threats online as well. And that was confirmed to me by someone close to Forrest. So I hate to hear that. I've always been a fan of his.
Yeah, just a second on, because I haven't talked about the McCullers situation, but I was very vocal on social media. And I said, it's ridiculous that we're talking about this as though this was an Astros fan. It's right. It's a sociopath. And most likely it's who I thought it was. It was a better. And we're seeing this with all baseball players and players throughout sports. It's betting that's causing this type of craziness and insanity. It's not an Astro. You're not an Astro fan. I don't like when they refer to nut jobs as a fan. They're either a sociopath or they're a criminal. That's right. What they are. They're not fans. And, as far as Whitley, his pitching, there was the one outing that he just got rocked, and he came in relief duty in a mop-up situation, and he's just leaving everything middle, and they were just hitting it all over the ballpark. And the thing about Whitley is, he gets this shot this time, and it's unfortunate because, he gets caught up in the DFA situation because of a bad situation. He doesn't perform well, obviously, but also, the Astros bullpen is loaded with guys that you can't get rid of because they're performing well, and you need those guys because the other situation that Whitley gets stuck in is the Astros can't afford to have weak guys in the bullpen when so many starters are down, and the bullpen depth is so important right now. Right?
No, that's true. And with the way that this offense up until lately has not been scoring, I mean, I still believe they have 34 or 36 games where they've scored 3 runs or less. So what that means is there's a razor thin margin of error with the pitching staff. And with the way that Whitley came out and was performing, you couldn't afford to keep him around, because you could lose 3 or 4 games in a 5 or 6 game span if you allowed that to continue. So until this offense becomes more of a powerhouse, which I don't think they have it in them this year, then the pitchers are going to carry a heavy burden. And you've got to have the guys in there that really are mopping up situations and cleaning the innings out when they get muddied by a couple runners on base.
As you said, Whitley's a first-round pick. I just got to run through the Astros first-round picks. This is since 2015, the last 10 years. Daz Cameron, Whitley, J.B. Bukowskis, Seth Beer, Corey Lee, Drew Gilbert, Bryce Matthews, and Walker Janik. The last 2, they're still up for grabs, but those first 5 first-round picks with Luno, or the big 5 first-round picks with Luno, not the first ones, Brett.
Right.
They were fantastic. You got Bregman and Tucker and Springer and Correa and McCullers. But, this last group, outside of getting Verlander and Greinke for them, and the Astros got lucky, it's been rough.
It has been rough. And those are some names that, man, when you like JB, I actually know someone loosely through card collecting up in the Northeast who knows JB's family. And when he got drafted, he told me all these stories about how, he was going to be this great, promising major league pitcher. And you and I know, watching the game as long as we watched it, you can have all the talent in the world, and it doesn't always pan out to a major league career. And when I heard whose draft picks those were, and I was like, wow, that wasn't a very good track record for those guys. But Walker Janik, I can tell you, man, this kid is throwing runners almost at a 40% clip. He is got one of the best arms in minor league baseball. I Bleav he's in Corpus already. Got an interview that's supposed to be lined up with him after the All-Star break. We actually interviewed him before the season started this year. Love the kid, and he said what he loves most about baseball is throwing runners out at second. So that's definitely refreshing. I can't wait till he comes up to the major leagues, because I think he will be one of the better catchers in our organization if his career goes smoothly, stays injury-free for many years to come.
I promise I will definitely know how to consistently pronounce Walker Janik's name by the time he gets to the big leagues. Brett, I want to hit on a couple of scary situations facing the Astros shortly, but just a quick reminder for our listeners that I want your Astros takes. Let me know in the YouTube comments. And as always, support us and get updates on every show that we drop by subscribing on YouTube, and definitely give us a quick thumbs up whenever you see a video, and listen while you're driving, working out, or making dinner with your favorite podcast app as well. All right, Brett, this Christian Walker thing is beyond a slump at this point. He's hitting 207 with a 619 OPS, but here's an analytic that should scare you to death as an Astros fan. His K percentage has gone from 19.2% 2 years ago to 24.1% last year to 28.1% this year. It was a 5% increase last year. Maybe the Astros should have looked at that a little bit closer before they signed him. That's his worst rate since he became a regular. This 28.1% this year, it's his worst one. That's a 9% increase in 2 years, Brett.
Yeah, and they say his bat speed has not dwindled, so it makes you wonder. And someone threw this at me, and this is pure speculation. I'm not a doctor, nor do I have any inside information on this. But ever since he's had that oblique strain, someone said, now I'm not a doctor, but it seems like when he swings, he may be trying to protect a certain side, to get strained again. I'm like, well, but if he's doing that, wouldn't his bat speed slow down? So the whole conversation came up. Is there something there that we don't know about? Is this 100% a mental thing? Is first base like that restaurant? Everybody's got that restaurant in their town that's been 10 different restaurants in the same location. When Jose's Mexican restaurant closes down, then St. Peter's pub goes up, and 8 months later it's Domino's Pizza. Is first base becoming this cursed position? Some people are calling it the curse of Yuli, but I just don't know what it is with Christian, because I haven't heard anything mechanically. I know he's been working on his swing. It's not his bat speed. I mean, is it between his ears? I mean, baseball is a mental game. It's predicated on failure to begin with. I mean, if you get 30% of the baseballs in play and you hit 30% of the time, you make it to the Hall of Fame. So that's how difficult this game has always been. I just can't put my thumb on it because we got this guy, not just for this year, but the next 2 years and at 20 million clip per year. So you hope that this guy can turn it around.
It might not be bat speed. It might just be reaction time because they keep throwing, I don't know if you've noticed, four-seam fastballs right by. He cannot catch up to the four-seam fastball.
If we go back to Jose Abreu, which I don't think he is, Jose Abreu's decline was evident. Now, outside of the strikeout numbers, I think Walker still hit 30 home runs, right? You know, he had 30 plus the last 3 years. It wasn't like, well, he's hitting less long balls and we don't know. They were pretty confident that they were getting the 3-time Gold Glove, the back-to-back-to-back 30 home run season guy. And yeah, when he gets a hold of a ball, he can get a hold of a ball, but he can't seem to do that very often.
Why is Walker still in the cleanup spot or anywhere near the top of the order? It's my biggest beef, Brett, with Espada. He's hitting an awful 214 with runners in scoring position. People are like, why can't the Astros score in the first inning? Well, if Pena and Paredes get on base, Walker's just going to leave him there.
Exactly. And you can't hold too much to, well, Espada's a traditional, he's your power hitter, put him in the 4th spot. There's no Yordan Alvarez. Because they've moved Jake Myers up. Jake Myers is your traditional 7 through 9 guy. He moves up to the 5 spot.
Keep moving him up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's doing great. I mean, look, Pena, and that's the thing. Pena, since he's gotten that leadoff spot, has been absolutely phenomenal. He's setting career marks and like OPS, on base percentage, slugging, batting average, all that stuff. I just don't know why you don't drop Walker to the 8 hole, to the 7 hole. And just say, Walker, you're going to sit here until you start hitting. You know, put you in the 8 hole so now we got to put Dubon on the 9 hole so he can be the second leadoff hitter and hopefully Dubon can catch fire. You know, whoever's there, Jacob Melton, I don't care. But yeah, he has no business being in the 4 hole right now. I'm thinking that they're just dead set. This is a 30 home run guy. We're paying him $20 million. So we're just going to let him play himself out of it. Well, you're kind of far into the season to play yourself out of something. Maybe a spade is a spade, and Christian Walker, maybe moving down the lineup would do him some good.
Brett, when you put in the lineup, it's not put in ink every single day for the rest of the season. If he starts hitting again, you're allowed to move him up. These managers just don't want to believe that. You're allowed to move him up. Jose Altuve went to Espada and said, move me down a spot. Christian Walker should be doing the same thing. Say, move me down. It'll take a little pressure off. I'm killing the team. If he's a team player, if he's everything that you wanted in a leader when you brought him in, it's not going to destroy his ego as a 34-year-old veteran ball player to move him down at least 2 or 3 spots in the order.
No, that makes sense. And, you know, the fact that Coach Altuve, as we call him, made that call, man, if I was a spot, I was like, can we not let that get out? Because I want them to think it was my call. But yeah, I don't understand some managers. I don't want to say he's not an alpha, and I don't want to, you know, challenge a man's character or manhood ever on any show, especially someone I don't know personally. But it's like, sometimes you got to take the bull by the horns and just say, guys, there's a 700-pound gorilla in the room, and we need to make some moves. Is anybody going to volunteer and tell me who y'all think maybe needs to move in this order? Who needs to perform better? Like, are we willing to call ourselves out? Okay, have Christian Walker raise his hand. Coach, I don't want to hit in the 4 hole anymore. I love hitting there, but put Jake Myers in there. Put Yainer Diaz in there. Move me down. And you would love to hear that, but not everybody's Jose Altuve.
And the other part about him is, has he looked like a Gold Glove to you, Brett? Hasn't his defensive metrics slipped a little bit too?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, at times he's made great snags. He's had some difficult stuff to dig out of the dirt. That comes with the job. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't performed the best at first base either. You know, there was, and I don't know whose fault it was a few games ago when him and Fromber both acted like they were going to charge and they didn't charge the ball, and then Walker flipped it to to Fromber and it bounced off his chest, and Fromber was all pissed off about it. I don't know whose fault that was.
I tend to go with Fromber.
Yeah, Fromber does tend to get a little lazy in the PFPs, but Christian Walker, when I hear him talk, he cares, Robert. So it's not like you're like, oh, this guy doesn't give a crap. Like, he genuinely cares. That's why I think it's got to be mental. You see, every time he goes down on strikes or swings at a pitch and misses, he has this look on his face like, I shouldn't have done that, or why didn't I hit the ball? And he's got to be better in all phases of the game.
There are some fans right now of Jose Altuve that are going to want to put their earmuffs on for this one, because look, I'm going to be straight up with everybody out there. Jose Altuve is now a below average baseball player. His OPS has gone from 915 2 years ago to 702 right now. He's terrible defensively, no matter where you put him, Brett. And he's an accident waiting to happen on the bases. This is a major concern if you're an Astros fan.
Yeah, it is. I will tell you that early on, when they made the announcement about him going to left field, when they started talking about, well, if you look at his defensive metrics at second, what was funny to me was, honestly, and maybe you talked about it, maybe a few people did, but I never heard people sitting around a bar or a coffee table or online talking about the defensive metrics of Jose Altuve falling off. And I think it's because of who Jose Altuve is to the city, how significant he's been in the playoffs, all that stuff, right? He's been one of the best in an Astros uniform ever, if not the best.
And the old school stats looked like they were just fine. You had to really go deep diving into it to really understand.
Exactly. But there were all these people that are like, oh yeah, I've known that for years. And I'm like, well, what? Like, you're just now saying that. But now when you do look at it, when you do see him playing more second base, you're just like, oh gosh, it's bad. Like, there was a ball yesterday that he should have caught. I think it had a 95% catch probability and he missed it. But just all around, the base running, we know the base running's never been great, but for him just to stop on the base pass and not create a rundown and not try to get the guy home and just give up and stand there. Look, man, I don't know. Maybe Altuve is one of these players. You know how they talk about resting players? Well, maybe they need to rest Altuve more than they rest the other guys, give more guys opportunities. I don't know. But he is the seasoned veteran. He's the guy they're paying $30+ million right now, and he is the face of the franchise. So I don't see his playing time being reduced anytime soon. I just hope that he keeps grinding and he finds a way to fix some of his defensive stuff and stop chasing stuff out of the zone. Just wait for the pitch to come to you and barrel the ball like you know how to. The other day when he struck out on a high fastball, and I know he loves high fastballs, but this high fastball was like, I think it would have been at Yao Ming's chin. It was so far above Jose Altuve. It was just bad. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that he can't be doing even in the 3-hole.
Yeah, and he's somebody that also should be moved down in the lineup. Jake Myers, frankly, should be at the top with Jeremy Pena.
Yes.
The stuff that we've seen from him is convincing enough. You put those three guys, him and Pena and Paredes in the top three, I think that's where it should be at this point. But here's the bigger issue with Altuve and Christian Walker. If you put Christian Walker and Jose Altuve together, if you put them together, you have $53 million on the payroll in each of the next 3 seasons. That's $53 million for two below average baseball players at best at this point. And Brett, here's the biggest thing that Astros fans need to worry about. It's nearly 1/4 of Jim Crane's payroll moving forward. And since he hates going into the luxury tax, and Crane does not look at Altuve's money as a tax for having him on the cheap during this dynasty run, his and Walker's contract are just killers when you're trying to put it together that championship team in the next 2 or 3 years.
You know, that is a harsh reality that I haven't really thought about. But now that you put it that way, it's like, wow, these guys are taxing. And for two players to take up that much cap room, when you know that's the case, that means they probably won't go after Framber Valdez. I mean, and, you know, to me, Framber is one of the few healthy big body pitchers that we have in the game today. And I know he goes off range every once in a while and goes catatonic and goes rogue or whatever you want to call it. But he's a pitcher, every year is going to give you between 170 and 190 innings, solid innings. He's going to be dependable. So, yeah, with those guys dragging the payroll down, you hope that maybe Altuve, I don't know, will Altuve ever consider restructuring? Will Altuve, the Astros have never done deferred stuff, Robert. Would he be willing to take some deferment so they can take some of that off of the overall cap space that they have or don't have to maybe sign other players? Because in the offseason, they're going to have to get a left-handed slugger outside of Jordan because they just don't have it. They don't have that in their lineup.
Yeah, if you look at what they're paying this year for Jose Altuve, Christian Walker, Jose Abreu, and Rafael Montero, that's $80 million. That's over a third of the money that you're spending on this roster. What could you do with $80 million and better players? It's amazing. And, forget Frommer, just any pitcher that you might want to add this year, next year, the year after, it's going to be an issue. So, and as I'm thinking about that, last thing I wanted to ask you about that connects to the whole thing, Astros are having to run out 3 young guys, 3 young starters out there. I want you to rank them in your trust factor.
Okay.
Ryan Gusto, Colton Gordon, Brandon Walter. Who should be the odd man out until our Arrighetti gets back?
The odd man out, I think, right now is Gusto. I had high hopes for him, and I talked a lot about Ryan Gusto, and I was excited about him. He just hasn't lived up to the billing. He's got the stuff. He can throw some heat, but the ball's meeting too many bats. I really like Brandon Walter. I really like Colton Gordon. Colton Gordon has more length in his time. He has a few more starts. But Brandon Walter, this guy's a diamond in the rough. I just trust Colton Gordon's stuff in the long haul because he is so filthy and so nasty with the speed and the off-speed stuff. But Brandon Walter, to me, is a quality guy. He doesn't wow you with his stuff, but, man, he knows how to go in there and produce zeros. And so the guy that I would trust the most right now is probably Colton Gordon just because of the velocity. But that's no disrespect to Brandon Walter. I just think Gusto needs to go back and retool some things because it looks like whatever he's doing is not as successful as it was when he was in the PCL.
Man, if Ullola could just throw some strikes, it would help the Astros out a lot back in Sugarland. I also want to throw out this idea for you. The Astros organization experimented in the minors with that piggyback starting pitching system, having one starter pitch the first few innings and another pitch the next few. This goes back to, I think, Jeff Luhnow.
Yes.
So when Luhnow did this, I was thinking about, okay, this might be the perfect situation for what's going on right now. Should they try that with Gusto coming out of the pen on a Gordon or Walter start to save their bullpen?
That wouldn't be a bad move. We all remember Brad Peacock and the role he played when he was with us, and he would get a spot start. He would be a long reliever. Ryan Gusto pretty much fits that type of billing, and I think he may be more successful coming in the middle parts of the game versus trying to start off and get things going. That way, Gusto can look at the landscape. He can look at the at-bats. He can look at the pitches being thrown, what the hitters are seeing, and then he can form a plan of attack. I would love them to do that. If Colton Gordon can only go 4 1/3, bring in Gusto for 2.5 one game. You know what I'm saying? Every other game, have him go 2 innings, have him go 3 innings. But that wouldn't be a bad option. But again, he would just have to perform in that role. I think he's better suited for that right now versus being a starter.
He's at H-Town Wheelhouse on X. What's the latest on Locked On Astros? Remember, everybody, it's every single day they bring it to you.
If you watch the show before the Astros White Sox series, we're just going to preview that series. We have been talking about various topics in Houston, like what's going on with Jordan. Again, we talked about some of this roster construction and where guys are going to hit in the lineup. But also check out Back to the Bullpen, Mike Stanton. This guy's second to none when it comes to analyzing the game of baseball with 19 years under his belt. And then one last thing, Robert, Wheelhouse Media Company is launching in about 2 weeks. I've got a podcast studios and everything opening up in Pearland, and we're reaching out to various people. We've got some writers that are coming aboard, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun, all-encompassing Houston sports media venture that everyone will be able to be involved in.
Yeah, sounds like me and you got something to talk about after this thing stops recording. Thanks
Yes,
for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Go Stros.
Hey, one last thing before everybody goes, because the music world lost a complete original today. Sly Stone, the man behind the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band Sly and the Family Stone, dies at 82. Sly's band and his music left us with this beautiful message about diversity. And I just had to finish off with this because it's something the world needs constantly reminder about that. Their song, Everyday People, just summed it up the best. There is a blue one who can't accept the green one for living with the fat one, trying to be a skinny one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. We got to live together. I am no better, and neither are you. We're all the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you can't figure out the bag I'm in. I am everyday people. Rest in power, Sly.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.